Jeffrey Stewart asks, my question is, how did the weight rule evolve? Us that know realize how ridiculous and dangerous it is. Weighing causes stress for many young vaulters. Love Team Hoot Pole Vault. I love you, Jeffrey. Okay, let's do this. Before I explain, I would like to set a disclaimer that I was just told this. I don't know how accurate it is or true it is. I just know that it makes a lot of sense. Just because it makes sense doesn't mean it's true. The best part about sharing this is if people do know, they'll be the first to tell me about it. I'm sure we'll get the right answer eventually. But here's how I think the weight label came to be. So let's travel back way back before the internet. Before the internet, our telephones had strings coming out of them that looked like the tails of a pig, and they were connected to walls. That's how we made calls. That's how you had to call people. And pole companies were selling their poles through this wall telephone. And they were selling poles to people who didn't know a lot about poles or how to get them. But staying on the telephone was expensive. From what I've been told, there was a lot of long distance phone calls. It wasn't just staying on the phone, it was having these long distance bills by staying on the phone. And explaining how flex numbers work takes up a lot of time. A 17.0 means that you're hanging a weight between here and it bends the pole this much and there's a variant. What kind of vaulter do you have? I have no idea. So the people selling poles for these pole companies were getting a bit frustrated. The longer I'm on here, the more money it's going to cost me, to the point where if I'm on here long enough, I'm going to lose money on the sale. Therefore, they thought to get off the phone sooner and save money, instead of explaining poles and flex numbers, maybe I'll explain it in a different way. And this new way was this weight system. And you know what? It worked. The pole companies were happy as they sold more poles and were on the telephone less. But this new system had a lot of problems. The weight system wasn't very accurate. For example, say you had a 15-foot pole with a 17.0 flex. Pole bends 17 centimeters. And you have a stiffer 16.5 flex. It doesn't bend as much. It doesn't bend quite 17.0, it bends 16.5, making the pole stiffer. They would both be rated at 170. So you have two poles, one stiffer than the other, but the weights look the same. That's confusing. Another problem, which I don't think is the pole company's issue at all, but if you grip lower on a pole, the flex changes. If I had a stick and I was out here, it would be easier to bend. The closer I got in and I tried to bend the stick in the middle, it would be harder to bend, making the pole stiffer. That's just how fulcrums work. And maybe the biggest issue is to avoid poles being broken. They use this new weight system to tell people to not jump on poles that are under their weight. They used weight to determine what poles they could jump on, which is another huge problem because pole vault isn't about weight, it's about energy. You could have two people that weigh the same, but one runs faster than the other one. The person who runs faster creates more energy, so it doesn't matter the weight of the pole, it matters the energy that they are generating and putting into the pole. Therefore, another way to look at this is you could look at it the other way. Can the person running a little slower, creating less energy, be on a smaller pole that may work better for them? I think so, but I'll get to that. So we have this new weight label system that was created from a good place to help explain to people who don't know anything about pole vault what poles they need for themselves or their athletes, while it was helping their business grow. But the people who make rules aren't typically pole vaulters or people of the sport. So these people who are making the rules see the label on the pole and it says, jump on poles that are over your weight. And so they make this a mandatory rule. But as we explained earlier, this rule is flawed. Yes, being on a pole that is too small and it's being overflexed can be dangerous. The pole can break, you might not make it into the pit. Danger. But being on a pole that's too big and underflexing the pole will also make it so you don't land in the pit, your hand slips and you land in the box. To me, that's just as dangerous. So now in the United States, under college, so high school and youth are the only place in the pole vault world that has this weight rule. And unfortunately, it has pole vaulters jumping on the wrong poles. It has new coaches confused, thinking this is the way, when if they just learned about flex systems early on, they'd understand how they work better. This weight rule has also created a system where athletes are publicly weighed at meets. There's literally a scale an official with a clipboard, and I don't blame the officials, they're just following the rules. I have a young daughter now, I have nieces as well. Imagine them getting publicly weighed and going, "You weigh too much to do your sport today." It's disgusting. This weight label rule and system has also created eating disorders in our sport. It has athletes trying to cut weight. I just got an email yesterday that said an athlete was a couple ounces over their pole weight, so they tried to cut their hair, and that wasn't enough, so then they put on a sweatsuit and started running laps, and they finally got their weight just under the weight of the pole, and then they were too tired and exhausted to pole vault, and they were coming up short, which, again, makes the sport more dangerous than if they were just able to jump on the correct pole for their ability level. They would have landed safely into the pit. So they're cutting weight, athletes are quitting the sport, and worst of all, it's creating eating disorders. I have so many DMs, emails, and private messages from athletes who have developed eating disorders because of this rule and being publicly weighed at meets, or the fear of being publicly weighed at meets. So take this with a grain of salt. I don't know if this is exactly how the weight rule or the weight label was created. I really don't think it matters. What does matter is a rule is here and what it is doing. So to me, rules are created to protect our athletes in the sport. And this weight label came from trying to protect our athletes, I think. I do believe that. It was coming from a good place. It's not working. It's not doing a very good job. And I use the internet as an example that was just a long time ago, that some things need to be re-looked at. The eating disorders really, really bothers me. As like a mental health advocate, this rule is creating more harm than it's helping. So because of that, I'm trying to stop, at the very least, trying to stop athletes getting weighed in at meets. It's still not great. But it's better than publicly weighing athletes. It just grosses me out. So if you want to help, I created a petition last year. I talked to some PR experts and they suggested, hey, start this thing now, have it go for almost a year, and then we'll try and pump this out to news, medias, and organizations and things like that to spread the word and maybe get this rule changed. So if you want to help, sign the petition. It's in the description below, and maybe we can make some cool change with this. Also, if you want to know more about flex numbers or how you can educate yourself on flex numbers or weights or just pole vault in general, ask away or go to team-hoot.com, and I have a whole section, I think almost a chapter on just flex numbers and weights and poles in my book to help give you the information and not just think the weights are the only way to go. Flex numbers are way more important than weight labels. Yeah. Guys, that was one question. I got asked about 50, so I'm going to try and speed these up on the next few. Thanks for bearing with me there. I hope this brings a little bit of clarity as to the issues that are going on. Remember, there's more than one way to pole vault. I will see you in the next one.
Down, almost like a smiley face when you're holding it. If I put this upside down, I look like I'm inverted on the pole. I want to throw our toes under the bar.